Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Global Gaming Supplier Showcase. I am so pleased to be joined today by a repeat guest, none other than John Connelly, Global CEO of Interblock Gaming. John, how are you doing today?
Doing great, thank you.
And it's such an important time for me to talk to you guys because, as you said before we got on, you guys have so many brands in the fire. You got so many things going on, and it's just a really exciting time to talk with you. I just spoke with Jim Preston a few weeks ago, and that was a great interview. And I'm sure we'll have a bunch of great tidbits from today as well. The ironic thing is when we first scheduled this interview, obviously this was several months ago, and I had no way of knowing. I was expecting to just go over G2E and all the regular things, but obviously now we have such a momentous deal to talk about. And if anybody who hasn't heard by now, obviously, you guys recently announced the acquisition of Aruze Gaming's electronic table game assets. The slot operations in Rote went to Place Energy, but you guys obviously got the ETG assets, which is a huge boost to your portfolio. So we've got some specifics, obviously, to talk about, but just broadly speaking, I mean, with a deal that big and that transformative, what's it been like? How's the transition going? How are things?
well, well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Obviously, first of all, very excited about the acquisition. Aruze has been a company I've been, watching for quite some time. I really consider it one of I would say, the most innovative competitors we have globally, with some of their technology. And in recent years, what they've done with roll to win, obviously historically shoot to win, and also the roulette products. So very, very happy. A lot of synergies from a product portfolio perspective and from a financial perspective, bringing the two companies together. So that's always very exciting. But the question's loaded because any M&A transaction is filled with a lot of work and a lot of wood to chop before you truly have it, integrated the way you intend to in the future. So we're busy working hard to make that happen, and make sure that by G2E, Aruze is part of Interblock, in not only in our booth, but in all of our materials and pre-G2E many meetings and discussions.
Well, and it's interesting you mentioned that because, in gaming, I didn't traditionally come from the gaming industry, so it's interesting to me how you have kind of like two end of the years almost. You have October, obviously, with G2E, and then you have the real end of the year. And so it's kind of an interesting point for the merger to take place. I mean, obviously, anytime it takes place, there's no time like the present. But kind of to just throw it in there like that in the end of summer it's interesting to me. And I want to touch on in the release when you guys first announced the deal, you had said that the goal was to get the revamped portfolio to market by the end of the year. Now, I'm assuming, like we said, that that's the end of the calendar year, obviously, and not G2E, but how is that timeline going, and does that still feel attainable at this time?
Yeah, we're the team. We're working quite hard at the moment preparing for G2E. The team's doing a great job. I think by the show, we'll hopefully continue to surprise and innovate with the industry. Really, one of our primary objectives each year is to innovate in such a fashion that it drives the industry forward relative to table games. And I think this year will hopefully prove to be more of the same, meaning we have some great new products, great new features, functionality. We're actually going to be launching a fourth product category of our company. Historically, the company started almost 30 years ago with standalone electronic table games with no live dealers. We then added a category which was stadium live dealer automated related. We then 2 years ago launched Universal Cabinets, which is more of a single player type of concept, which did very well. And this year we're launching, which I believe is going to get more traction and it really, I think, get the interest of even those that perhaps historically weren't quite sure where electronic table games were trending and the significance. I think the fourth category we're calling the Smart Pit. Discussions I've had pre-G2E, it could be revolutionary, not from me, but from the operators. So we're going to have that technology installed in our booth, and quite excited to launch that fourth silo product category of Interblock. And then on top of that, obviously the fifth category in a manner is the Aruze. We'll have Aruze in our booth as well. So between new products for standalone, a lot of new features and functionality in our stadiums, some new content for the universal cabinets, a fourth new category in Aruze, it's been busy.
Wow. So there was a lot there, and I'm trying to decide where I want to go from there. So I'll start with the fourth product line because that obviously is the biggest news. So you mentioned obviously, and I want to get some information out there for the public. So you guys will be in booth number 1239, 1239. And the plan, as I understand, is for the booth to be completely private and invite only, which is a bit unique amongst the show. I'm sure some people will probably have some questions about that. So could you kind of touch on that a little bit and kind of why the decision, went into that process, and also kind of what are your expectations for Smart Pit at the show? And is there any more details that you can release at this time?
Yeah, I get a lot of comments about us having a private booth. I took that decision, as you know, a couple of years ago, and we'll continue to do that this year. Last year went almost seamlessly. The first year, some bumps in the road, obviously, when people walked up unannounced. But last year we were prepared, and we'll be prepared this year for all of our customers. We host over 700 casinos are represented through our booth in 72 hours. So it's intense, logistical challenge to say the least. But we do that more than anything to really create an exclusive environment for specifically our customers, our partners, and to keep those that are not our partners and customers out of the booth, and from unfortunately copying and trying to take our innovation and all the work that our team puts into things and just simply go back and do it themselves, hopefully, in their own manner. And so we're very protective of our innovation and how we present ourselves in the shows around the world. You'll see more and more of our enclosed concept. But with that said, inside, if you're inside our booth for this year's G2E, you'll see all 5 of those areas I just described, including Aruze, and the Smart Pit will be no exception. It's obviously got a lot of attention because it is something new, whereas the other 3 categories, I think people are accustomed to those product lines and continue to add more. This one, I would say the closest people have come to it is our live craps product, similar to the Aruze Roll to Win. That is one component of the Smart Pit, but we will have roulette, blackjack, and baccarat components. And in theory, and I think hopefully in practicality, the traditional live table game pits for decades, there's been very little innovation to make those areas of the floor automated or infused technology. I think the closest thing a lot of us talk about is the shuffler that was innovated, but that's over 2 decades ago. So in the past couple of decades, there's not the same innovation in a traditional live table game pit that we've seen in other areas of the casino sector, and especially when you talk about online gaming, right? So, some of the analogies we use is that, when you check in at an airport today versus 10 years ago, it's very different. Or you're checking into hotels now, there's kiosks. So we felt that there was some things as Interblock we could do using our technology to make those dealers incredibly more efficient for the casinos, and more decisions per hour, enable them to increase house advantage or hold percentages with technology, but not slow down gameplay, eliminate collusion, eliminate mistakes, which represent, hundreds of millions of dollars a year globally between players and dealers unintentionally in many cases. In some cases, it's collusion. So we feel we've eliminated that. And also, finally, one of the holy grails is to be able to know how much a table game player is playing. So no longer having to just punch in, walk by, and assume how much they're wagering. We actually track by hand. We can determine how much a player is wagering and be able to rank them and rate them accordingly and compensate them accordingly, which is one of the holy grails the casino industry has been looking for forever. And then finally, I would say one other technological advancement that's something people have been waiting for quite some time is the ability to have dice recognition. everybody's always tried to find a way to, on a craps table, to have some, whether it be RFID or some technology to recognize the dice and eliminate mistakes and collusion and really make the game secure. And we have come up with a patented technology that we'll be introducing in the booth at G2E, and that will be most likely be in submission at one of the either BMM and or GLI at the show, by the show, and we'll be coming to market with that before the end of the year. So a lot of, relative to the smart pit, many I could go on for hours, but it's really, I think, a potential game changer.
Wow. And I have to tell you personally, I'm extremely excited to see it, excuse me, because, one of the hallmarks of my conversation with Jim earlier was about how Interblock, I feel, is perhaps one of the best, if not the best, manufacturers in terms of getting products right. And I can identify an Interblock product probably quicker than any other ones. And I think that that's a hallmark of good design and good manufacturing. So, like I said, I'd be extremely curious to see this new innovation, especially with your guys' personal touch, which always goes very far. If I could, put some numbers on that too as well. If we dive into the latest Eilers Fantini report, with the addition of the Aruze assets, as you have mentioned, you guys now hold an impressive 70% market share of the ETG distribution in its North American game performance database, which is a lot of words, but is very impressive. And I think for someone like yourself who's seen this growth firsthand, like when you hear numbers like that, kind of what does it symbolize for you in terms of the growth of the company? And also, what do you think, what kind of possibilities do you think it affords now that you guys are also continuing to innovate with new products as well?
I think first and foremost, it makes me think of a sense of urgency, meaning when you have 70% of a market, we need to scale and work harder than ever to support that install base and support all the operators that have gotten us where we are. So that's first and foremost. But with that said, we've built the company, and we don't talk much about this, we're private, but directly and indirectly, we have close to 1,000 people on a daily basis working on electronic table games. And I think people would be shocked to know that, because 6-7 years ago, it was more like 200. But we've scaled for that reason, to make sure as we're scaling, we're able to sustain, all those product verticals, to be able to integrate M&A transactions. And quite frankly, in heading into 2024, we're an aggressive company, growth orientated. So our intention is next year, over the next 12 to 24 months, to enter into periphery sectors such as online gaming, HHR, class 2, many other areas where we're going to begin placing products. So in order to do that, you need to make sure you scale simultaneously and hire the right people. And we have just a fantastic team of individuals with, literally thousands of years of experience in electronic table games, going back 30 years, that allows us to, I think, to get where we are. So yes, it's obviously statistically great data and great numbers, but with that comes a huge sense of responsibility, and I think the team's motivated by that. And I think, without this sounding incorrect, I think the team wants that number to increase, and so that's good, because I think if they're satisfied, the number will probably go down. So 70%, I think many of the people in my company would say is the beginning, if they have it their way, and they really want to go into other sectors. As I said, they see the online gaming space as a tremendous opportunity for our company, along with the other verticals I just mentioned.
So we've talked a lot, obviously, and warranted about Interblock success. Now I want to flatter you a little bit by turning to you personally. So in addition to the business side of things, you are also preparing to speak at the show, and I'll give the details now. So it'll be on Monday, October 9th from 2:40 to 3:30 p.m. at the Venetian Expo. Anybody who's interested can get a pass through the G2E website. And the topic, which is very important, is the future of gaming. So that can go any number of ways, any number of, that's a large nebulous topic. So how does it feel to be chosen to speak, and especially on that topic in particular?
It's humbling. It's a lot of pressure. So I'm busy talking with a lot of people within the industry that I respect and that have been in various sectors and segments of gaming, getting their input, what they feel and where they see the industry going in the next 5 years. I think you go much beyond 5 years. I think it's a little bit fictitious in our business due to regulations and barriers to entry and so forth. But for the next 5 years, I think there's some really exciting topics we can cover. Obviously, the proliferation between online and traditional gaming. I think we're just at the surface. I think that is going to 5 years from now, the world will look very, very different. And so we'll spend some time talking about online and traditional gaming and how that crossover, both from a player and strategic standpoint of existing operators and online operators, could transform. And focus more on table game technology, as I mentioned, something that we do at Interblock and where we see the industry going. Smart pit being, I think, potentially a very big discussion item. What's to me ironic is in Asia, we've already won awards in the smart pit and we haven't even released it yet. Just the documentation alone was enough for the operators over there to choose it as the product of the year. So I think it will resonate what we're trying to do when it comes to live table games in a traditional sense with technology. And then obviously we need to be mindful of those other factors and competitive landscapes around us to make sure that we remain relevant as we evolve as traditional gaming and these other factors come into play. So we'll spend some time on that. But again, I'm talking to a lot of people, getting a lot of great input. So we'll try to package it in 45 minutes and make it worthy of people's time.
Well, I personally will be there. I can't wait to hear you speak and to talk more about the future. Obviously, as time goes on, and on the editorial side, I've always joked with my coworkers. I'm already preparing for Omni. That's the next. Everything has Omni in front of it now, so that'll be the next. That's my next mission. So. I have one more for you. I want to get you out of here on this. I always like to end with a question about the future. But as you said correctly, so once you get too far out, it starts to get a little bit weird, especially for a company like yourself who has so much working for them. So I'll phrase it like this: a year from now, if we're back here at the same spot talking about next year and beyond, what's one goal that you would have hoped to achieve by then? By the time we sit here next year,
I'm gonna cheat and give you two.
Cool.
I would say one is that I very much hope the smart pit concept and innovation helps the industry become much more profitable and resilient during economic recessions and during labor shortages and other challenges the industry is facing. So that's one. And we'll know by this time next year, we'll know for sure whether it's achieved those objectives. Two, I would hope that when it comes to Interblock, the online space will have been able to access our content in both existing forms that we're accustomed to online, and with a little bit of luck, maybe in a couple of ways that they've never experienced before that we're working on. So we're hoping to take that innovation from the traditional casino floor and utilize that to go into the online space with a different mindset and different mentality that we hope will resonate. So I think those would be two key areas I hope to achieve in the next 12 months.
Awesome. Well, John, that's all I had for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sure you have endless number of things that you have to continue getting back to before the show, so I will let you go. But again, thank you so much for coming on, and I can't wait to see where Interblock and you go from here.
Thank you for joining us for the GGB Gaming Supplier Showcase, our exclusive look at the best products and services produced by vendors for the gaming, iGaming, and sports betting industries. For more information about the GGB Supplier Showcase, contact Terry Brady at tbrady@ggbmagazine.com.